Hey everyone, in this video I want to talk about a story that the internet, as it's always done, has taken a story from online and twisted it in a very awful way to make the person whom I've personally seen to be the victim, who has twisted them to be the piece of shit they are, an awful person, a cheater, as they put it. So the story is about this VTuber called Froot, who I believe what ignited this drama was that she was called out for cheating on her husband that was out in service at the US Marine. As the US Marine, I mean. And people were giving a shit for that, being like, you're a cheater, how dare you cheat on your husband while he's in service, being a good fighting soldier in whatever war they have right now. And people were criticizing her for that. But as the more days went on and the story evolved, she put out a document to give her side of the story where she felt like she was abused by her ex-husband or ex-boyfriend to the point that she didn't feel bad for cheating on him and how she was so glad to finally be done with him and breaking up. But people, you know, when I mean document, it's a pretty fucking big one. To the point that if you're like some lazy internet user that's like chronically online every day, then you're probably so lazy, didn't even read it yourself. You just see people shitting on her and you're like, well, I guess he's a piece of shit. Fuck her then, what a cheater. This is the most mind-blowing on Twitter because with like the retweet function, you know, that everyone uses, you see like her tweet where she put out the document being like, I invite you to read this. And people are like, so yeah, it's full of nothing, it's full of dust, fuck this. But then, yeah, if you actually read it, it's not that big. It does seem like intimidating when you first read it, but I don't want to sound like a piece of shit, but it's entertaining because her ex-boyfriend, her ex-husband, I have to say, he's the most like comically masculine, like self-conscious kind of guy I've ever seen online. Just from the DMs he sent to her. And I have to be honest, from every single scenario that she pointed out in the document, he sounds like a piece of shit in every single one. When you imagine a cheater, you think, you know, like they try to like paint them as a victim, and they try to like make every scenario where you should feel bad for them. Fuck the other guy, feel bad for me. I'm the woman, I'm the victim. But Froot does show like multiple occasions before in the past where like she did like barely nothing to like warrant a bunch of anger, where the guy, you know, he twisted it, made it much worse, and then yelled at her. And she also, whenever like she tries to push back on him, being like, you know, fuck you, he uses that as more of a cause to be more angry at her, yelling at her more, being like, oh, you're so useless, you're never there for me. So I want to show like a couple examples of the occasions where he was like so deranged and like a piece of shit that on one side, I have to find it funny, I'm sorry. The first big one was like, you know, where the document starts with one example of like a story where she was living in the UK around 19, and to fly to America, she had a layover in Sweden. I don't know how you have a layover in a different country when it's like completely to the west. But then as she was staying there, her flight got delayed and she had to sleep at an airport. And that's fine. But some creep around, like, you know, like while she was sleeping on the bench, went up to her and sexually assaulted her. She got security. She got like the police to like go after him and arrest him. That's fine. But the ex-boyfriend, he uses that, I'm not even kidding, he uses it as ammunition to blame for her on how he was always there for her, but she was never there for him. Like, it's so bizarre. Out of context, if I show any screenshots, they're from Facebook, so you have to read from bottom to top, and she's green, you know, and the ex-boyfriend is in blue, just so you know. There are parts in the document which is like, you know, this is a very common sign with abusers where they blame the partner and try to guilt trip them. And I have to agree with her, because this guy, from every DM she showed, he's like such a miserable piece of shit. And it gets even worse when the next section is him trying to guilt trip her for not wanting to do anal. Like the most bizarre thing to get like angry over because it seems so mediocre. But for him, I don't think he actually wanted to do it, but like, he feels so angry that he refused it, naturally of course, it's her choice, but he was pissed off at that. But when I read this, I immediately had an image in my mind where I was like, any guy like tries to like force this on her, on the partner, and then they do it, I always imagine them sitting on the bed being like, because it was so mediocre, it wasn't even worth the argument. And in this section, the second section already, he automatically goes to the point of, you know, of threatening killing himself for not wanting to do up the ass, and also threatening to like cheat on her. So if there was any part of you watching this video that was like, oh, I still hate her for cheating on her husband, then just know that he tried to pull the same card, but even more miserably, for just wanting to do anal. Like, that's it. There are so many parts where like he's such a miserable dog, it's actually funny. Like there's one part I screenshotted where like he sounds like so gay, like so like a philosopher. Society says we're fortunate with one woman, yet she won't support me in something she's not comfortable with. You know, if you wanted to, you should like put a banana in a microwave and fuck that and get about a better experience. Another funny part where like, he goes into like a massive tirade is like where she got angry at him. No, sorry, he got angry at her for watching a gay anime of two lesbians, and there's one part where like it starts off so dumb. Where like, oh, I watched this very cute anime, and just right off the bat, he's like, oh, fuck those, you know, lesbians scissoring together. How this is disgusting. They're mentally ill. Like it's so like, how do you get to that point of being so passionately angry from just like your girlfriend talking about an anime she enjoyed? Just that simple. I'm pretty sure there's even a part where like, he accused her of being a lesbian for just enjoying seeing that stuff, and the entire time. You have to admit, like there's a huge ratio of like, you know, of like blue highlight and green highlight. Because every time she talks, like for every message like he sends like 10 angry ones, even more. Because he's like that mentally deranged. Where like she will say like something like, you know, oh, I think people have the right, you know, to love who they love, and even if it doesn't make kids. And he's like, that's scientifically impossible. It doesn't make any sense. You're a moron. You're a worm. A worm. This was another part where I found very bizarre. Where like she literally says it like in a document where even though they were legally married, it was like the most bare-bone definition of marriage, where it was no ceremony, was it no ring? I think he said no ring. It might have been a ring, but it was like one of those marriages where you go to like the council, you go to the courthouse, you sign a document, and that's it. Like no passion, no love at all. And I screwed with Froot that this was a tactic to keep her with him, and that was it. Because at this time as well, she moved from the UK to live with him in the US. So like so much stuff like to like make it more difficult for her to leave him. She stays in the same house, same country, doesn't know anyone there, completely by herself. And she does mention and makes it very clear that he made an attempt to isolate her from anyone she knows, like friends, family, people that would see like him being a piece of shit, or coerced her to like make them break up. One reason why I found this so funny and depressing, because it was actual experience from a real person, that was because there's an actual story where while she was in the UK studying in uni and staying in a student house, and he was all the way in America, she wanted to go make like a pot noodle, you know, on the stove, but because it was a dog shit stove, it was like one of those like ones where you turn on and you need a lighter to ignite it. And then after she told him of, you know, how long it took to set it up, it was a piece of shit stove. He saw it as like her being so incompetent, she couldn't do anything by herself, and how in turn she would be a useless wife that can't do anything at all. And trust me, he takes every branch to make her seem like a fucking idiot. Like, oh, you can't turn on a stove? How useless are you? You dyslexic fuck. Like, I'm pretty sure he even makes fun of her having dyslexia, which makes no difference. But he makes it seem like it's a very crippling, you know, condition that makes her, you know, be like someone in a wheelchair that can't do anything. But now I want you to wrap up the story, so I'm gonna quick fire all the other like dumb shit I found on the DMs. Number one, he kicked her out of the house when like they went to a shooting range, and she just wanted to watch him shoot, and she didn't want to hold the gun herself. Number two, her friends back in the UK complimented his voice for sounding very deep, and he called that gay shit. Number three, what was number three? I think number three goes back to like her watching the lesbian anime, where he literally said himself that engaging with LGBT content threatens his career in the US Army. And I only remember that because there's a funny part where like he says, "You need Jesus." But yeah, I will admit, most of the DMs are just funny to read, because the other person, the abuser, the very clear abuser, is such a moronic human being. It's just funny. If it wasn't tinged for a slight depressing factor that it was an actual relationship where Froot, the actual, you know, clear victim, was, you know, in a very depressing state where he obviously caused it and made it much worse. And you do have to respect it for like going through the time and dedication to find all the messages from like the Facebook archive and put them up and go through the time of like censoring them. Because there's so many pictures, there's so many DMs, it must have taken, I can only imagine, a shit ton of time. But it's really important because, you know, when you're making a claim of, you know, someone being an abuser, a piece of shit, you do need evidence. And she very clearly, you know, put a lot, like a shit ton. But one bizarre part of the story, of the situation, is how, despite all the evidence, all the proof that is as clear as daylight, that prove that the boyfriend is a scumbag, people on Twitter still take the story and paint her as a piece of shit, simply because they took the summary of the story of someone cheating on their boyfriend while they were in the army and took that and ran with it and did nothing else. They couldn't even take the time to get the full picture. Which is even funnier when you see everyone retweeting the same, you know, post that Froot made, where like it's right there, all you have to do is just click on it, and at bare minimum, just read the first section, where he was like begging or, you know, demanding anal, and she didn't want to give it to him, you know, and he was threatening suicide, cheating on her, all this bunch of other stuff, just when I want you to do anal, and that's it. So it is very depressing watching someone like show proof of, you know, being in a very bad relationship, moving past it, you know, showing everyone that she was clearly a victim, and then everyone ignoring it and suddenly calling her out, you know, being like, oh, you're a whore, piece of shit, fuck you, like all this awful stuff that it would probably backpedal on if they simply read one single DM that she showed and document. Like it's that, you know, very, very simple.